Coming up on this episode of One-on-One Sports,
We have a Ryder Cup recap.
we look at the biggest names on the NFL's injured reserve list.
Dive into the impact of HBO dropping boxing.
All that and so much more.
And it all starts
Right now. Hello and welcome to this episode of One-on-One Sports. As always, I'm Matt Holzaffel.
And I'm Andrew Vandellis. We have a lot planned for today, so in order to start us off, let's jump right in with the quick hitters. Senior quarterback Kelly Bryant announced his decision to transfer from Clemson after losing the starting job to freshman Trevor Lawrence. But in their last game against Syracuse, Lawrence was injured in the first half and did not return. Matt, does this situation impact Bryant's decision to transfer at all?
Absolutely not, and here's why. In the press conference after the game, Dabo Swinney was asked, would you take Kelly Bryant back? He wouldn't answer any questions about it. He's not talked to Kelly Bryant since. I just really feel like Kelly Bryant is done at Clemson. On top of that, Chase Bryce didn't look bad. They play Wake Forest next week, and yesterday they announced Trevor Lawrence was fine. He will start. Kelly Bryant's gone at Clemson.
I know it's got to have him second guessing, at least after the game. I mean, Clemson squeaked out a win, barely, 27-23. And as you mentioned, Chase Bryce did not look bad coming in for Trevor. I mean, he threw for 83 yards, 7 for 13. Not terrible. He did enough. But if you're Bryant, you got to be thinking, that could have been me.
Yeah, and he said, this is a direct quote, to me, it was a slap in the face. Of course, because you're your senior starter and you get supplanted by a freshman who just came there. And no offense to Trevor Lawrence, because Trevor Lawrence looks great.
Oh, he's fine.
But that was Kelly Bryant's team. You have to be offended. And why don't you go use that 1 year of eligibility somewhere else, and then you can play in the NFL?
And a lot of what that Clemson comeback was mounted off was by the running back Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
I mean, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really Bryce making the difference at all. It was more on the running game of Clemson. But either way, I just think he's got to be second guessing.
Absolutely, good win for Clemson this past week. Mets ace Jacob deGrom finished the year with a record of 10-9, but there is much more than what meets the eye. Aside from the record, deGrom finished with an ERA of 1.70, which was best in the league among starting pitchers. He also set a new major league record with 29 consecutive starts where he allowed less than 3 runs. And with all that being said, he is not the favorite to win the Cy Young in the NL. Is that wrong?
Absolutely. DeGrom is the 7th pitcher in MLB history to throw for more than 215 innings with a 1.70 ERA, as you mentioned, or better, which is absolutely insane.
Insane.
And while he was 10-9, that shouldn't hinder his skills or anything, his view on a talent at all, because those games were decided by a few runs or less, where he lost.
I know stats aren't everything, but stats are so much for Jacob deGrom. You look at this, he was second in the NL Cy Young race behind Max Scherzer for the strikeouts. And yes, Max Scherzer threw 300 strikeouts, which is fantastic. Credit to him. But look at this. If the Mets had scored at least 4 runs in all of deGrom starts, he's 30-0. The best season in MLB history. If they score 3, 25-1, 2, 20-6. So the Mets averaged 4 runs a game, and the simple fact that they couldn't provide run support should not hinder Jacob deGrom's ability to win the Cy Young.
Exactly. We should look at this and realize that a performance like his this season doesn't come around every season, if at all. So the MLB needs to capitalize on what they have here and, give him the Cy Young, or at least present him as a favorite, not just a, dark horse in the race.
Yeah, we said it in passing, but that 29 straight starts with less than 3 runs is absurd. Unheard of. It's great. Jacob deGrom is great. He should win the NL Cy Young.
Late last week, the Carolina Panthers signed safety Eric Reed to a 1-year, $1 million contract. Reed is the first player who protested with Colin Kaepernick to get signed by another NFL team. Despite what many say, the Panthers GM and owners say this was a strictly football decision. Matt, what are your thoughts on this?
100%. It's a football decision, plain and simple, and it's because of injuries. Denoris Cersei just joined a long list of secondary players in Carolina to hop on the IR this past week. David Gettleman, or not David Gettleman, their whole ownership organization said this is not, they didn't even ask him about the anthem protest when they talked to him, didn't talk about it. Eric Reed's a good football player. People forget that. He was a Pro Bowler in his time with the Niners.
He's a small sample size as well. And when you look at it, the Carolina secondary, they only have 3 safeties on their depth chart as well, and the injuries. And you're looking at Carolina secondary, they're not great in passing stats either. They're 14th in yards per game, 13th in pass yards per game, and in addition, like Eric Reed, gives them a solid chance to sneak into the top 10.
There's no reason Eric Reed shouldn't start Sunday. There's no reason he shouldn't be the starter in their first game. He's the best raw talent safety. As soon as he's up to speed with their defense, you got to put him in the lineup.
And I think this was a purely football decision because, as I said, you look at that sample size, you look at the Pro Bowls he made, and while he had some time off from the league, this gives him a chance to throw him right back into a fire with a team that actually has a chance to contend for a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. When he was on the Niners, his best season, he was third in tackles with 73 behind Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis, tackling machines.
Absolutely.
Eric
And
Reid's
he's a safety. And it just shows that they are looking at this from a talent perspective and nothing more, in my opinion.
I'm glad Eric Reid's on the team. He deserved to be on a roster.
Same here.
On Sunday, the New York Yankees hit home run number 265, breaking the all-time record for team home runs in a season set by the 1997 Seattle Mariners. Andrew, baseball's had its issue with popularity as of late. Does having a team that powerful as the Yankees have been boost a new age of popularity?
I think everyone loves two things in baseball. Bombers,
Yep.
home runs, and star power. And the Yankees are the perfect team for it. Their team is a staple in the MLB, one of the first names you think of when you think of baseball. Plus, they're always a draw, and they have 5 players with 25-plus home runs. Giancarlo Stanton has 38.
Yes, but I don't think this has impacted the amount of people watching baseball for the sole reason that home runs are up, but so are strikeouts, which is arguably, from a hitting perspective, the most boring
game is
play.
getting better, maybe?
Maybe. The level of play is obviously up. But I will use Giancarlo Stanton as an example. He was obviously very high in home runs, very high in strikeouts too. When he's good, he's very good. When he's bad, he's very bad.
It's like the Mark Reynolds syndrome, but for the entire MLB. Who knows? But I think if you're looking at this from a milestone perspective, 265, I couldn't think of a better team than the Yankees.
Of course, they're the Bombers. It has to be the Yankees. There's only a matter of time.
Yeah, even if they're only just a lock for the wild card, I think this creates more hype and buzz for the playoffs overall. It's cash money, if you ask me.
Yep, and it's so big that they're playing in Yankee Stadium for the wild card because the balls fly, the balls carry, home runs are going. Judge, Stanton, Sanchez, home runs are getting out. Yankees will win the wild card because of the home run.
Yeah, the Yankees could be making a really, really deep playoff run there. And what a better way to cap off a good regular season than starting off the playoffs hot, hitting even more bombs. Who knows?
Home runs in the wild card, guaranteed. But that's all the time we have for the quick hitters.
When we come back, I'll be hitting the links in France for a recap of the Ryder Cup. Europe proclaimed the Ryder Cup in dominant fashion Sunday at Le Golf National outside Paris. While the Europeans looked in sync, the Americans came out flat and never recovered. Both sides will have 2 years to dwell on the outcome before the iconic tournament returns to American soil in 2020. I'm here with David Flint and Drew Gentry to digest these weekend's events. Drew, Tiger went 0-4 last week after a win at the Tour Championship. What does this do to his confidence this offseason?
Nothing. Tiger's back, baby, and yes, I mean that, pun intended.
We did talk about it last week, but
he's
didn't stun him at all?
No, nothing at all. Tiger is at an all-time high confidence rating. He's number 1 on shots gained near the green. He's number 11 in the PGA Tour overall in shots gained. And the only thing he really needs to focus on this season, or this offseason, is his driver. That's the one thing. His confidence will not be shattered. In all honesty, he should win at least one major next year.
I agree with you that the driver is the biggest thing, but for the first time in quite a while, he doesn't have to worry about rehabbing in the offseason. He doesn't have any injuries to worry about. Yes, he didn't do well in this Ryder Cup, but that's a team environment. It's match play. It means absolutely nothing in the context of playing for majors. Coming off that win at the Tour Championship, he's back in the top 20 of the world rankings. So there's nothing he needs to worry about. He's going to be in contention.
Finished second in the FedEx Cup. When's the last time we thought Tiger would be this relevant again? 2008?
Exactly.
Top 20 in the PGA right now. But we'll move to someone who went undefeated this weekend. Francesco Molinari is the 4th player in Ryder Cup history since 1967 to go 5-0. Now that he has a win, is this a sign for many more majors to come for him?
I think it is, because, he won the Open Championship this year, but not only did he win it, he won it without a single bogey in the final round playing alongside Tiger. If there's any more pressure-packed situation than that, I don't know what it is. So if he can continue to do that, have ice in his veins when it comes to his putting, obviously it seems he thrives well in the Ryder Cup environment too, which, again, it's match play, but some of those elements transfer very well.
I think he has the potential to go off and win more and more majors, but I don't see it happening. I think he could maybe get a few along his career, but I don't think he's going to be dominant. It's like you said about Tiger, how this 0-4 means nothing. His 5-0 means nothing as well, because yes, they won the Ryder Cup, they dominated the Ryder Cup. Europe obviously restored greatness in that. Was not expecting that. American lineup was star-studded, But one major, we've seen people win one and fall off. Sergio, what happened to him after he won his first? He was close for several years, but like it's just too early to tell. Is he the next type of Jordan Spieth player? Is that what he's going to be?
I'll give you that, but Sergio, keep in mind, is a whole lot older than Molinari. Sergio is pretty close to 40. Molinari, I don't believe, is 30 yet. Now he's older than the Justin Thomases and the Jordan Spieths, but he and his brother Eduardo have been playing on the European Tour, the PGA. They've got enough experience. They've been around the block a few times, and he seems to have come out of his shell, so I think he's ready to contend for more.
Well, that's all the time we have, but don't go anywhere because when we come back, we'll be discussing some of the NFL's biggest injuries.
Get caught buzz driving, and you could do some hard time.
Craig, knock it off.
Sorry, Mom.
It could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And that could set you back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
No thanks, Dad. I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna go fix the lamp in your room.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
The NFL season is back, and with that comes the injuries. Every team faces them in some capacity, but some teams just seem to get the short end of the stick. I'm here with Josh Toback to break down which NFL injuries seem to be giving teams the most trouble so far this year. So, Josh, we've seen a lot of injuries, but which one has been the quote-unquote death sentence, the worst that you've seen for any team?
A lot is an understatement. These past few years, there's been so many injuries in the league, but especially with players who just signed a contract, and I think the obvious answer for this is Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, the 49ers were investing so much into him. Every draft pick they had this year was to invest, making the team better around him. But then he goes out of bounds on a non-contact play, and bam, out for the season. C.J. Beathard is a decent quarterback. He's actually had a good game against the Chargers. 2 touchdowns, 298 yards, 2 interceptions, which is actually better than any game Garoppolo had this season. But the problem is, he's not a long-time solution. So what do you do in this situation? Do you try and muddle together a 6-10 season, or do you tank and go 2-14?
So if you're the Niners, what do you do?
What do I do? Well, I run the ball. Here's the thing.
And you stick with C.J. Beathard.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, there's no free agent quarterbacks out there right now that can help. At least ones that the 49ers would be willing to sign. Matt Breida was the leading rusher in the NFL for 2 weeks leading into the season, but then they stopped handing him the football. 9 carries against the Chargers. They almost won that game, mind you. Their defense is not terrible, but they need to run the ball more. I understand he's battling a shoulder injury, but, I mean, he's still running the ball. He's still playing. So if they want to, at least be passable in this season and not completely just fold up and cry now that Garoppolo's gone, I think you have to hand the football off more. You got to play grindhouse football. Jared McKinnon's gone too, which is another kind of sad thing for the 49ers.
Yeah, ACL injuries, couple already in San Francisco. Sticking with CJ Beathard, though, we'll see how that goes. Which team would you say got the short end of the stick, so the worst luck with injuries so far this season?
I mean, I wanted to say the Patriots with Isaiah Wynn, Rex Burkhead, Jeremy Hill, but those are more quantity. I'm going for quality. Atlanta is just suffering so much right now. You've got Julio Jones dinged up here and there. He's not playing to his fullest capabilities. Yet to catch a touchdown this year. Takk McKinley was questionable entering the Bengals and kind of showed. You got Keanu Neal out for the season. Deion Jones out for the season. This is showing, right? They're the third worst pass defense. They have the third worst pass defense in the league right now. They are the first team. This is a fun fact, by the way. They are the first team since the 1966 New York Giants to score 30 points in back-to-back games and lose. They did this last week and they did this week against the Saints and against the Bengals. Bengals aren't as good of a defense as the Saints, but the Saints have had an off season. Now, Matt Ryan's doing his part. Calvin Ridley's doing his part. But this team is just being thrown through the ringer. They are not going to win games if they have to keep losing shootouts like this.
How valuable does it show Tevin Coleman to be with Devontae Freeman out, and the running game hasn't really dropped off? So how valuable is Tevin Coleman to the Falcons?
Tevin Coleman is one of the best second-string running backs in the league. I mean, Devontae Freeman being out is obviously not great, but Tevin Coleman does have, the goods to run the football as well as he can. But Matt Ryan is the key of that team. They've always been a pass-first team. I mean, you can look at, their Super Bowl loss and how they kind of went right to throwing the ball. Last year, they were also really relying on throwing the ball. I don't think Tevin Coleman's as much, or Devontae Freeman being out is as much of an impact as, their defensive players being out. Because they're still scoring points. That's not the problem. They're scoring a ton of points, even with Julio Jones a bit dinged up and Devontae Freeman. But their defense is just letting them down. It's actually kind of upsetting. They should have won that game against Cincinnati.
Yeah, Matt Ryan's certainly doing his part. Defense, though, has to get healthy. Devontae Freeman has to get healthy, too. Josh, thank you. That's all the time we have left. When we come back, we'll head to the ring to talk some boxing.
After 45 years and over 1,000 fights, HBO is finally hanging up their gloves in professional boxing. The network announced that it will drop its boxing coverage at the end of 2018, and I'm here with Brad Clear and Emmanuel Taube to discuss what this could mean for the future of boxing. So, Manny, how could you see this impacting the sport as a whole?
I see it impacting the sport a lot. I mean, if you look at, HBO has been in the forefront of boxing coverage for the last 45 years.
Showtime, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, but I would put HBO definitely ahead of Showtime. But anyway, what I'm saying is, I think we're definitely going to see a change in the way boxing is covered, as well as the way boxing is shown. Because usually we have this basically HBO has the pay-per-views and stuff like that. But once HBO backed out of it, we're seeing these bidding war in terms of who's going to get these promoters, who's going to get these different boxers. I see they're bringing multiple different ways of how we watch boxing, and I see it changing as a whole.
I think what it speaks to, you mentioned the whole differing ways of transmission, is you look at all of these media entities now, right? ESPN has ESPN Plus, Amazon Prime, all these different companies have over-the-top streaming services. That's where boxing is going to head also. As far as HBO's association with boxing, when you think of boxing, if you had to associate it with one specific network, you would do so with HBO.
Of course.
So, as far as present-day monetary impact, I don't know how great that would be, but I think the biggest impact is in an associative way of what you associate boxing with, and I think the overall transmission of boxing to the consumer from the promoter.
And I think ultimately that it was a good decision in terms of HBO getting out of boxing.
I would agree.
I agree with that aspect because to me, I think boxing, as we said, the way boxing is shown, the way boxing is covered needs to change. I think it has to.
The thing also when you're a network is a sport like boxing. The revenue for boxing, the money you gain from it, comes from pay-per-view, which is not a guaranteed view from every person who is paid for your station on their cable, DirecTV, whatever it is, package. So, this happened also, I would say, with UFC. UFC got a lower rights deal than they last had because their big money income to whoever their provider is comes from pay-per-view. It's not weekly TV, so it's not really worth it for a cable network to provide boxing to the consumer.
Well, Brad, I'm going to offer this follow-up question. We know the saying boxing is dead. Is the sport headed to mainstream extinction?
I wouldn't say extinction. I would say significant decline in the popularity that it once had. I don't think it'll ever be completely extinct from the mainstream mind, mainstream exposure. But the biggest stars in boxing 40 years ago to now, and I think it's already been seen in the last 5 to 10 years, will never be at the same level. I don't think a boxing superstar will reach the mainstream level and popularity that the old guard will have.
I agree, and I definitely think that it's towards a decline. But with boxing, it's a worldwide sport. I think that's one thing that we have to think about is how many people over the seas watch boxing, especially in Europe. So to me, boxing being such a worldwide sport, I think it's definitely declining. But we have to watch how we
I would say
talk about
decline, but not extinction.
Definitely, but that's all the time we have for boxing. But don't go anywhere. When we come back, our MLB experts will be here to talk some playoff baseball.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs, just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Wake the sun, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
Calendar officially reads October, which means that it's pumpkin spice MLB playoff time. I'm joined at the desk by Evan Piercy to break down the different matchups we're going to be seeing this month. Evan, great to have you on. Great time of the year, playoff baseball. Start with the wild cards. AL, Yankees, A's. Who you got?
Yeah, so wild card, I have to give it to the Yankees. They're 7-3 in the last 10, which including 2 out of 3 from the Red Sox. They're at home, difficult place to play. Yankee Stadium, atmosphere is going to be electric, and they're 53-28, which is the second best record behind the Red Sox. At home, Yankees are hitting over 260 with 144 home runs. Severino has been doing well his last 2 starts against Tampa Bay and Boston. I just don't think Oakland is going to be able to come in there.
I don't think you can overstate how important it is that they got home field advantage.
Yeah.
So let's move to the NL. Wild card, Rockies, Cubs. Who you got?
I have to give it to the Cubs for the sole reason. The Rockies finished the year in D.C., then had to fly to LA to play the game 163, which was yesterday, and now have to fly all the way to Chicago.
That's tough.
To play tonight in the wildcard game. Cubs chilling at home. They're really good there, 51-30. They're hitting over 260 as a team, where the Rockies on the road hitting under 230. I just think John Lester is going to be too much to deal with. Yeah, Bryant, Rizzo, Cubs are going to go on and win.
Let's stick with the NL then. So you have Cubs. If they win, they play the Brewers. Can they get past the Brew Crew?
No.
No.
Brew Crew, I got to give it to them. I mean, they're a great team. They have what I think is the National League MVP in Christian Yelich.
Has to be.
It has to be the MVP. They have the bullpen with Jeremy Jeffress and Josh Hader, who are dominating right now. They're 51-30 at home, and they recently took 2 out of 3 from Chicago in Chicago. I got to give them home field advantage. Brew Crew moves on. They'll be drinking a lot and cheering a lot out there in Milwaukee.
Yeah, Milwaukee loving that baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Will they be playing the Braves or the Dodgers in the NLCS?
They're going to be playing I got to give the Dodgers. Now, this series to me is a toss-up. Looking at the splits, both teams are pretty much identical. I want to say 44 and 37 splits between home and road, both hitting around 245 as a team, both home and road. So I really have to give it to the experience. I have to give it, Kershaw, yes, he struggled in the postseason, but I have to give the Dodgers after the run. I think that they'll be a little bit too much for the Atlanta Braves to come. The Braves are good. Don't get this wrong. The Braves are a good team.
Good
they
young
definitely
team too.
Surprised a lot of people. It's just not yet for Atlanta, and I'm sorry about that, but not yet. Maybe
Atlanta
next
fans, you got the Falcons, Hawks.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going AL now. Let's start at the top. We got Indians, Astros. Very good matchup here. Who are we going with that one?
I don't actually think it's going to be a great matchup. I think Houston wins this easily. Now, the Indians are secretly one of the best offensive teams in baseball. They're second basically in every category, second or third to the Red Sox. But when it comes to baseball, especially in October, pitching wins championships. And that's what the Houston Astros have. They lead the league in ERA, average against, strikeouts, then are top 5 in basically every other pitching category. So you look at their starting rotation. You have Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole. Both are possible Cy Youngs. They're in the conversation. And then you have Dallas Keuchel, a proven ace, as your number 3.
Right. So
McCullers,
going Astros, right?
Yeah.
Let's go quickly through the rest of the bracket. So Yankees, Red Sox. Who you got?
I have to give it to Boston.
Has to be, yep.
Solely because Chris Sale.
All right.
And that's just because
so
the Yankees.
ALCS and NLCS. Who are going to be 2 World Series teams?
The 2 World Series teams, I have the Brewers versus the Astros.
Who's going to win?
The Astros are going to win.
Astros are going to win? Write it down.
Astros are going to win. Back-to-back years for them. It was kind of an out there pick, but they have the pitching to get it done. So.
All right, there you go. MLB playoff time, great time of the year. That's all the time we have for this MLB postseason block, though. Up next, Andrew will join me to discuss the most miserable fan bases in the country.
ESPN recently released a list of the most miserable fan bases in the country. The teams in the top 25 of the list included the Browns, the Brewers, and the Bills. Oh my. Matt, my question to you is, what fan base should not be in the top 25?
I think it's what team is not in the top 25 that should be in the top 25.
Oh, really?
So the Miami Marlins, they were 26, and it's absolutely absurd they weren't higher. They have the second longest playoff drought in American sports with 15 seasons. That's tied with Cleveland, only behind the Mariners, who were in the top 25. The Marlins haven't been good since they were the Florida Marlins. Their last World Series, 2003. Last winning season, 2009. How can you not put the Miami Marlins, who, since Derek Jeter they've just traded all their good talent away, and they've only gotten worse. How can you not put them in the top 25?
I got to say it's the Washington Redskins, because they're not miserable, but they're not great. But they've been stuck in kind of like this purgatory for the past at least 20 years. I mean, think of the last time that they made it to the NFC Championship game.
Can't.
Nope, not at all. And while I do see things going forward with Alex Smith as a quarterback, I know President Bruce Allen got a lot of flack for trading for him, but it's not a drastic improvement. Sure, Smith's a better leader than Kirk Cousins was. He might have a better arm, maybe. But coming from signing someone who hasn't won a playoff game in his career in Kansas City, at least, you got to have your reservations about this guy and the team going forward if you really want to contend in the NFC East.
I like how we had 2 different teams who are bad or on this list for different reasons. The Redskins are so average that it hurts.
They're so close to being
decent. The Marlins are so inconsistently bad that it hurts. So these just 2 fan bases who need a break. Redskins don't look bad this year. Marlins, obviously, they're out of the playoffs again. 15 straight season this year. Maybe next year, Marlins.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of One-on-One Sports.
A big thank you goes to all of our producers, crew, talent, and of course you, the viewer, for tuning in.
If you liked what you saw and you want to see more, be sure to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at One on One Sports.
That's all from us here in the studio.
So until next time,
whose side are you on?